In the age of collapsing stars and silent abandonments, a fragile voice echoed from a dying world. What began as a forgotten signal would awaken the conscience of an entire galaxy. This is the chronicle of a rescue not just of a species, but of ideals long buried in logic's shadow. And it began with a spark, a decision to care when the rest chose silence. The crystal towers of Cryara shimmered under the light of their dying sun core. The once blue giant now glowed an angry red, casting long shadows across the world's surface. Elder Vizin stood at the observation deck, his crystalline body reflecting the ominous light, as he watched another atmospheric shield fail in the distance. "How much time do we have?" he asked, his voice a melodious chime that echoed in the chamber. Syra Valen, the communication specialist, approached with a slow, deliberate gait. Her crystal form was smaller than Vizin's, with delicate patterns that marked her as young among their kind. "The shields will completely fail in 8 rotations," she said, "unless the Council sends help." Vizin's body dimmed slightly, a sign of deep sadness among the Kryaris. "And has the Council responded to our latest plea?" Syra Valen hesitated. "Nothing. Official, Elder. Only silence." Outside, the world they had known for tens of thousands of years was dying. The Kryaris had evolved on this world, their bodies made of living crystal that stored and processed information like biological computers. They had built a peaceful civilization, one that valued knowledge and harmony above all else. But they had never developed the technology to leave their world. When their scientists discovered their sun core was destabilizing, they had immediately reached out to the Galactic Helion Pact for aid. That was 3 years ago. "I will try again," Vizin said, moving toward the communication chamber. His crystal body made a soft chiming sound as he walked. A sound that had once been common in Kryari cities, but was now rare, as many had entered quiescence to conserve energy. The communication chamber was a vast dome of amplifying crystals, designed to boost signals across the sun cores. Vizin positioned himself in the center and began to glow from within, transmitting his thoughts directly into the galactic network. "This is Elder Vizin of Cryara. Our situation grows dire. Our sun core will soon undergo catastrophic changes that will render our world uninhabitable. We request immediate evacuation assistance. The Kryari people have much to offer the galaxy in knowledge and art. Please respond." The message went out. Traveling at speeds beyond light itself, through the channels established by the Helion Pact's advanced technology, Vizin waited as he had waited hundreds of times before for a response. None came. What Vizin didn't know was that at that very moment, his message was being received. Not by the Helion Pact, who had long since set their systems to automatically archive Kryari distress signals, but by a small station at the edge of Helion Pact space. The station was Helion Pact property, but was manned by a single representative who had been effectively exiled there. Envoy Ralek Varen had once been a respected diplomat, but had been sent to this remote posting after questioning too many Helion Pact decisions. Now his job was to monitor signals from non-priority sectors. Envoy Ralek Varen's scaled face frowned as he listened to Vizin's message. He had heard these pleas for years, and had forwarded them all to the Helion Pact. He knew what happened to them. They were discussed in closed sessions, evaluated for cost-benefit analysis, and ultimately rejected. The Kryaris, with their crystalline biology, had been deemed evolutionarily redundant by the Helion Pact's scientific committee. Similar information storage capabilities had evolved in 3 other species, all of which had more advanced technology and were already Helion Pact members. The resources required to save Kriara would be better spent elsewhere, according to the mathematical models the Helion Pact used to make decisions. Envoy Ralik Varin had been there when the final decision was made. The universe is vast and resources finite. High Helion Pactor Kethera had said, "We cannot save everyone. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the natural order." No one had argued, no one except Envoy Ralik Varin, which was why he now sat alone at this distance station. With a heavy heart, he recorded a message and sent it directly to Vizin, bypassing official channels. It was against protocol, but he couldn't bear the thought of the Kriaris waiting for help that would never come. Back on Kriara, Vizin was leaving the communication chamber when Sira Valen rushed in, her crystal form pulsing with excitement. "Elder, we have received a response," she said. "It's marked as private, addressed only to you." Vizin's form brightened with hope as he returned to the center of the chamber. "Display the message." A holographic image of Envoy Ralik Varin appeared. The Helion Pact representative looked tired, his scales dull with age and stress. "Elder Vizin of Kriara," Envoy Ralik Varin began. "I send this message unofficially. The Helion Pact has received all your distress calls. They have discussed your situation and have decided not to intervene. They deem the rescue of your species as resource inefficient. I'm sorry. No official vessels will come." The alien paused, looking away briefly. "This will be my only communication. I risk much by sending this. Prepare your people as best you can." The message ended, and the hologram faded. Vizin stood motionless, his crystal form now dim and dark. "Elder." Sira Valen's voice was small. "What shall I tell the others?" Vizin turned slowly. Tell them we continue to wait for the Helion Pact's response. I will not spread despair until all hope is truly gone." Sira Valen nodded and left, her steps heavy. Vizin remained alone in the chamber, watching as the angry red light of their dying sun core filtered through the dome. Later that shadow cycle, after the city had dimmed for rest cycle, Sira Valen could not enter quiescence. She returned to her post at the communication array, scanning all frequencies out of habit and desperation. It was then that she noticed something strange, a signal pattern she had never seen before, coming from a direction far from Helion Pact space. The pattern didn't match any known species in their database. It was simple, almost crude, by Helion Pact standards, but it was deliberately moving toward the Kriari emergency frequency. Someone was trying to find their signal to lock onto it. Sira Valen adjusted the array, strengthening the connection. Suddenly, clear words came through in a language the lingua code array struggled with, but eventually rendered to the people of the world, sending distress signals. "This is Captain Elara Quinn of the Terra vessel Horizon. We have received your calls for help. We are not members of your galactic Helion Pact, but we want to assist. Please respond with coordinates and the nature of your emergency. We are coming." Sira Valen's crystal body lit up with a brightness not seen in years. She immediately began to compose a response, her fingers dancing across the controls. "This is Sira Valen of Kriara," she transmitted. "Our sun core is dying. Our people need evacuation. The Helion Pact has abandoned us, who are humans." The response came quickly, as if the sender had been waiting eagerly. "We're from a world called Terra. We're new to space travel compared to others. The Helion Pact rejected our membership applications. 3 times said we were too unpredictable. There was a pause. "But we're good at helping when others are in trouble. Send us your coordinates. We're coming to get you out." Sierra Valen hesitated only a moment before sending Kriara's location. She didn't alert Vizon or anyone else. If this was false hope, she would bear the blame alone. The last thing the message from Terra said was, "Hold on, you're not alone anymore." 4. The first time in years, Sierra Valen allowed her crystal form to shine with genuine hope. Captain Elara Quinn stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching as the red giant sun core grew larger on the main screen. Her brown hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and deep lines marked her face from years of difficult decisions. This mission was perhaps her most important yet. "How much longer until we reach Kriara?" she asked. Navigation Officer Ben Lewis checked his instruments. 3. Quanta, Captain. The sun core's radiation is making our sensors act up, but we should be able to establish a stable orbit. Olivia nodded. "Alert all departments. I want everyone ready for first contact procedures." The Horizon was Terra's newest long-range vessel, built for exploration and diplomacy. It wasn't designed for large-scale evacuation, but it was all Terra could send on short notice. When the strange distress calls had been picked up by Terra's deep space array, the decision to respond had been made quickly. Humans might be new to interstellar travel, but they understood what it meant to need help. Officer Lieutenant Orion Voss, the ship's communications expert, approached the captain. He was younger than most of the crew, with kind eyes that crinkled when he smiled. "Captain, I've been studying the language patterns from the Cryari transmissions. Their lingua code array technology seems advanced, but there are still cultural concepts that don't convert well. I think I should be part of the first contact team." "Agreed," Olivia said. "You'll come with me and Chief Engineer Wright." In her quarters, Engineer Nova Tallinn was reviewing everything they knew about Cryari physiology. The information was limited, just what they could gather from the brief communications. The Cryaris appeared to be crystalline life forms, something humans had theorized about but never encountered. "Fascinating," she muttered to herself while making notes. Their bodies seem to store information like computers, but they're alive with emotions and culture. How do they reproduce? How do they eat? She had 1,000 questions and hoped she would get answers soon. 3 quanta later, the Horizon entered orbit around Kriara. The world was beautiful from space, covered in structures that reflected light, like prisms creating rainbow patterns across its surface. But even from orbit, they could see the atmospheric disruption caused by the dying sun core. "Captain, we're being hailed," Kyle said. "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of a crystalline being. Light moved through its transparent body in complex patterns, and when it spoke, its entire form vibrated slightly. "I am High Luminary Kalis of Kriara." "Are you humans?" Olivia stepped forward. "Yes. I'm Captain Elara Quinn of the Terra vessel Horizon. We received your distress calls and came to help." The crystal being's internal lights pulsed rapidly. "The Council told us no one would come. Why would you strangers from beyond known space choose to help us?" Kyle, standing beside the captain, recognized the confusion in Vizen's tone. It wasn't just a question of language, there was a fundamental cultural disconnect. "High Luminary Kalis," Kyle said, stepping forward. "On Terra, we have a principle. When someone calls for help, you respond. It's that simple." Vizon was silent for a moment. "This is not how the galaxy works, young human. Resources are calculated, benefits are weighed, decisions are made with cold logic." "That's not how we work," Olivia said firmly. We'd like to send a team to meet with you to discuss evacuation options. After a brief hesitation, Vizen agreed. You may land at the coordinates we're sending. Be warned that our atmosphere is growing unstable. Your visit must be brief. An hour later, Olivia, Kyle, and Susan stood in the transport room dressed in environmental suits designed to protect them from unknown conditions. The ship's doctor, Frank Morris, was giving them last-minute instructions. The atmospheric readings show high radiation levels, he said, his voice gruff with concern. Your suits will protect you, but don't stay longer than 4 quanta. And don't touch any Lyrian directly without testing for compatibility first. The transport beam deposited them in a crystal chamber that reminded Susan of being inside a diamond. Everything reflected and refracted light, creating beautiful patterns on the walls and floor. 3 Lyrians waited for them. Vizen stood in the center, taller than the others, with complex patterns running through his crystal form. Beside him was a smaller Lyrian with a faster internal light pulse. This is Sira Valenvizen said, indicating the smaller one. She was the first to receive your message. And this is Thalos Kryn, our lead scientist. The 3rd Lyrian bowed slightly. Thalos Kryn was different from the others. Parts of his crystal body were cloudy rather than clear. Welcome to Cryara, Vizen said, though I fear you have arrived only in time to witness our end. Susan stepped forward, her scientific curiosity evident even through her suit. High Luminary Kalis, our scans show your sun core's deterioration is accelerating. We need to understand exactly what we're dealing with. Thalos Kryn moved closer. Come, I will show you our data. In Thalos Kryn's laboratory, the humans sun-coreed at crystalline displays, showing the sun core's condition. Susan's face grew increasingly concerned as she translated the Lyrian measurements to human terms. This is worse than we thought, she said quietly to Olivia. The radiation levels will reach lethal levels for the Lyrians in stellar spans, not months as we estimated. Their crystal bodies are particularly vulnerable to this specific type of stellar radiation. Olivia turned to Vizen. How many Lyrians are there on the world? Approximately 12,000. Vizen replied. Many have already entered deep quiescence to conserve energy. Kyle did the math quickly. The horizon can safely transport maybe 300 in emergency conditions. That's not nearly enough. Olivia's face showed no fear or hesitation, only determination. Then we need more vessels. She activated her quantum comlink. Horizon, patch me through to Terra Command. Priority Alpha back on Terra Fleet. Marshal Virildane received the transmission in the middle of the shadow cycle. Her gray hair was disheveled, but her mind was sharp as always. Nash, do you know what time it is here? She asked, but there was no real anger in her voice. Admiral, we need every available ship. 12,000 lives are at stake, and we have stellar spans, not months. Bell listened as Olivia explained the situation. When the captain finished, there was silence for a long moment. You realize what you're asking, Bell finally said. To divert all our vessels would leave Terra vulnerable. The Galactic Helion Pact has already warned us about interfering in their territory. The Helion Pact abandoned these people to die, Olivia said firmly. If we do the same, we're no better than they are. Diplomatic advisor Ren Koren, who had been listening from the side of Bell's office, spoke up. Captain, the Helion Pact specifically warned us against contact with non-member species. This could jeopardize our entire standing in the galactic community. With all due respect, Sir Kyle interjected. What standing? They've rejected our membership application 3 times. They call us primitive and dangerous. Bell rubbed her temples. Miller has a point, Captain. This isn't just about one rescue mission. This could affect Terra's future for generations. Olivia looked around at the Crystal City, at the Cryaris, watching her with hope in their shimmering bodies. She thought about what it meant to be human, about the values that had guided Terra through its darkest times. Admiral, she said, her voice steady. If we abandon these people when we have the power to help, what kind of future are we building anyway? There was a long silence from Terra. Finally, Bell sighed. I'll divert every ship we can spare. God help us all if the Helion Pack decides to make an example of us. As the transmission ended, Olivia turned to Vision. More vessels are coming. We'll get your people to safety. For the first time, the Elder's crystal body glowed with a warm golden light, the Kryari expression of hope. 7 rotation cycles, after Captain Nash's call to Terra, the sky above Kryara, filled with vessels. 47 vessels of various sizes and designs dropped out of faster-than-light travel almost simultaneously. It was the largest armada Terra had ever assembled for a single mission. Commander Alan Foster stood on the Bridge of the Liberty, the largest of the rescue vessels. At 52, he had seen much in his career, but nothing like this. The Liberty was a converted military transport, hastily refitted to carry as many refugees as possible. All vessels report, ready for operations, his first officer said. Alan nodded. Tell them to maintain orbit and await further instructions. I'll take a shuttle down to meet with Captain Nash and assess the situation firsthand. On the surface of Kryara, the arrival of the Armada had caused a wave of emotion among the crystalline people. Many had emerged from quiescence as hope spread through their collective consciousness. High Luminary Kalis watched the vessels appear on the monitoring screens, his crystal body glowing brighter than it had in months. Your people came, he said to Olivia, who stood beside him. You truly came. We said we would, she replied simply. The Horizon had spent the past week setting up a base camp near the main Kryari city. Chief Medical Officer Denise Carter had been working non-stop with Kryari scientist Thalos Kryn to understand the needs of the crystalline beings during space travel. Their bodies are incredibly sensitive to vibration and pressure changes, Denise explained to Olivia. Standard transport conditions would cause them to fracture, possibly fatally. Thalos Kryn nodded, the cloudy patches in his crystal form shifting slightly. Our natural environment is very stable. We evolved on a world with minimal tectonic activity in a consistent atmosphere. Space travel as you know it would destroy us. Denise ran a hand through her short red hair, a habit when she was thinking hard. We need specialized phase cradles, cushioned pressure, regulated with minimal vibration transfer. Can we make them? Olivia asked. We'll have to, Denise said. But it means sacrificing parts of our own life support systems. Each ship will have to reduce human support capacity to make room. When Commander Foster's shuttle landed, he found a hive of activity. Humans in environmental suits worked alongside Cryaris, preparing for the evacuation. He spotted Olivia directing a team near a row of half-built structures that looked like crystal cases lined with padding. Captain Nash, he said, extending his hand. Commander Foster Terra sent me with every ship we could gather. Olivia shook his hand, relief evident on her face. Thank you, Commander. We'll need every one of them. Alan looked around at the busy scene. Brief me on the situation. As they walked, Olivia explained the challenges they faced. The specialized phase cradles needed for Kryari transport. The limited time before radiation reached lethal levels. The logistics of moving 12,000 beings who had never been off-world. And the Helion Pact, Alan asked quietly. Any response to our presence here? Nothing yet, Olivia said. But they know we're here. It's only a matter of time. Their conversation was interrupted by Kyle, who jogged up to them, his face serious behind his suit's faceplate. Captain Commander, the Cryaris have detected a ship at the edge of the system. It's not responding to hails, but its energy signature matches Helion-packed technology. Alan's expression hardened. So they've sent someone to watch us. More likely to warn us off, Olivia said. We should continue with the evacuation as planned. How many phase cradles do we have ready? 212, Kyle reported. Dr. Carter says we can complete another 100 by tomorrow. Not fast enough, Alan muttered. At this rate, evacuation will take stellar spans. Weeks we don't have. Olivia finished his thought. I'll talk to Thalos Kryn about simplifying the design. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the crystal city, when engineer Nova Talon approached Thalos Kryn in his laboratory. The engineer had been studying cryari technology, fascinated by how they combined crystalline biology with advanced science. Thalos Kryn. I've been thinking about the phase cradles, Susan said. What if we used your own chronostasis technology? The quiescence state many of your people entered. Could we adapt that for transport? Thalos Kryn's inner lights pulsed faster, a sign of excitement. It might be possible. Hibernation significantly reduces our sensitivity to external conditions, but we would need a way to maintain the chronostasis field during transit. Show me how it works, Susan said, pulling out her data pad. We might be able to integrate it with our ship's power systems. Across the city in what served as the cryari equivalent of a hospital, Denise Carter was examining Elder Vision. The leader had been working tirelessly, and his crystal form showed signs of stress. Cloudy patches, similar to those in Thalos Kryn's body. You need rest, Elder, Denise said, reading the scanner results. There is no time for rest, Vision replied. My people need me. Your people need you alive and functioning, Denise countered. This clouding in your crystal structure. What does it mean? Vision was silent for a moment. It is the beginning of crystalline decay. The radiation from our sun core is affecting me as it affects all Cryaris. Thalos Kryn has had it longer. That is why his clouding is more extensive. Denise sat back, alarmed. How long before it becomes fatal? Days, perhaps. Less for some, more for others. It depends on individual resilience. We need to prioritize evacuation for those showing advanced signs of decay, Denise said, already making notes on her medical pad. The next light cycle, as the first large group of Cryaris was being prepared for evacuation, a message came through on all communication channels. On the bridge of the Liberty Commander, Foster watched as a council enforcer appeared on Sa's screen. The alien was tall and slender with dark blue skin and multiple eyes arranged in a circle around its head. It wore the distinctive silver uniform of Council Authority. I am Enforcer Zekra of the Galactic Helion Pact, it said, its lingua code array converting the complex sounds into English. You are engaging in unauthorized interference with a natural extinction event. This violates Council non-interference directives. Cease all evacuation activities immediately. Alan stood straight, his military bearing evident. This is Commander Derek Thorne of Terra. We are not members of your council, and therefore not bound by your directives. These people need help, and we're providing it. This will have consequences for Terra standing in the galactic community, Zekra warned. The Council has denied your membership applications for good reason. Your species is unpredictable and does not understand the natural order. If the natural order means leaving intelligent beings to die when they could be saved, then you're right. We don't understand it, Alan replied. Now, unless you're here to help with the evacuation, please maintain your distance from our operation. The Council ship fired a warning shot that passed close to one of the smaller human vessels. A research ship called Curiosity. The bright beam of energy lit up space like a lightning bolt. Without hesitation, scientist Aylin Merrick, commander of the Curiosity, maneuvered her small vessel between the Council warship and the evacuation armada. Her ship was the smallest in the human armada, with minimal weapons and defenses. Hellion-packed vessel. She transmitted her voice steady despite the danger. This is scientist Aylin Merrick of the Terra research vessel Curiosity. We are conducting a humanitarian mission. If you want to stop us, you'll have to destroy us first. Through the view screen, Alan and the others on the Liberty's bridge could see the tiny Curiosity dwarfed by the Council ship, holding position like a shield. The Council ship didn't fire again. After a tense minute, Zuka's voice came through once more. This incident will be reported to Council High Command. Expect a formal response. With that, the Council ship turned and headed back to the edge of the system, though it didn't leave completely. Alan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Tell Dr. Young she has more courage than sense. And double the evacuation efforts. We may not have much time before they come back with more vessels. On Cryara's surface, the first phase cradles were being loaded onto transport shuttles. Each crystal case held a Cryari in semi-hibernation, their bodies glowing softly within. Human crew members handled them with extreme care, aware that each case contained a living being whose existence now depended on them. As Olivia supervised the loading, she found herself standing next to Syra Valin, who watched her people being carried away with mixed emotions. "Are you afraid?" Olivia asked. Syra Valin's inner lights flickered in a pattern that the lingua code array interpreted as a sad laugh. Terrified, but also grateful. "Your people are risking much for strangers. That's what humans do." Olivia said it our best, anyway. The first shuttle lifted off carrying 30 Criaris to their new future among the sun cores. The journey back to Terra began with a slow procession of vessels leaving Criari orbit. 5 rotation cycles had passed since the confrontation with the Council vessel, and nearly half of the Criari population was now safely aboard the human armada. Captain Olivia Nash stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the final shuttles returning from the surface. "Status report," she said to Kyle, who was coordinating the evacuation from his station. "Just over 7,000 Cryaris are now aboard the Armada," he replied. "The last group will be up within 3 quanta. We've prioritized those showing advanced signs of crystal decay." Olivia nodded. "And Elder Wizen. He insists on being in the last group. Says he won't leave until every one of his people is safe." This didn't surprise Olivia. In the short time she had known the Criari leader, she had come to respect his devotion to his people. It reminded her of the best human leaders throughout history, those who put the needs of others before their own. On the Liberty, Commander Jace Riven was dealing with another challenge. The ship's life support systems were strained to the limit, maintaining both human crew quarters and the special conditions needed for the Criari phase cradles. "We need to divert more power to the Criari section engineer," Paul Wilson explained. "Their units are showing temperature fluctuations that could be dangerous." "Where can we take it from?" Alan asked. Paul hesitated. "The only option is crew quarters. We'd have to reduce heat by at least 15 degrees in all human living areas." Alan didn't hesitate. "Do it. Issue thermal blankets to all crew members and rotate shorter shifts so people can warm up." "Sir, that's below comfort regulations for—" "I know what the regulations say, Wilson. Do it anyway. We didn't come all this way to lose a single Criari because we wanted to stay comfortable." Throughout the Armada, similar decisions were being made. Humans gave up comfort, space, and resources to keep their crystalline passengers safe. On the medical ship, Mercy Dr. Saren Arwin worked with a team of human and cryari healers to treat those suffering from advanced radiation exposure. "The clouding is spreading faster in this one," she said to a cryari healer named Healer Thera Enix. They stood over a containment unit holding a young cryari whose once clear body was now nearly half clouded with gray patches. "Yes," Healer Thera Enix agreed, "but see how the core still pulses strongly. There is still hope." Denise nodded and adjusted the unit's settings. "We found that a specific frequency of light seems to slow the clouding. We're applying it to all the severe cases now. Across the Armada, unexpected connections formed between humans and cryaris. On the science vessel, Discovery Elder Vision had finally been convinced to board, leaving his dying world behind. The ancient cryari spent much of his time in the ship's observation deck, watching as his home world grew smaller in the distance. It was there that communications officer Lyra Nerin found him one quiet shift. At 25, Amy was the youngest senior officer on the Discovery. Her curiosity about the cryaris had led her to study their language and culture whenever she had free time. "May I join you?" "Elder?" she asked. Approaching carefully, Vision's crystal form pulsed gently. "Of course, young human, your company is welcome." Amy sat beside the containment unit, which had been positioned to give Vision a clear view of space. "Do you miss it already?" she asked, nodding toward the fading image of Cryara. "A home is more than a place," Vision replied. "It is memories, connections, shared experiences. In that sense, I have not left my home behind. It travels with us in the minds and bodies of my people." Amy considered this. "That's a beautiful way to think about it. Humans often get attached to physical places, and yet you leave your world to explore the sun cores." Vision observed. "I guess we're contradictory that way," Amy said with a smile. Their conversation continued for quanta. Each learning about the other species, Phison explained how cryaris stored information within their crystal structures, passing knowledge directly from one generation to the next, through a process similar to what humans would call downloading. Amy described Terra's diverse cultures and environments, the constant change and adaptation that defined human history. "Your species embraces change," Phison noted. "Ours has traditionally feared it. Perhaps that is why the Council found you unsettling, and maybe why they found you dispensable." Amy said, then immediately apologized. "I'm sorry, that was blunt." "But accurate," Phison said. "The Council values progress and efficiency above all else. A species that resists change does not fit their vision of galactic evolution." Meanwhile, in the quiet depths of space, the Armada received troubling news. Captain Nash and Commander Foster were reviewing intercepted Council communications in the Liberty's secure meeting room. "They've called an emergency session," Olivia said, looking at the decoded message. "To discuss the human interference, as they call it." Alan's face was grim. "Do we know what they're planning?" "Not yet. But whatever it is, it won't be good for Terra. We've directly challenged their authority." Kyle, who had joined them for the meeting, spoke up. "There's something else in these transmissions that's interesting. Look at this section." He highlighted a portion of text on the screen. "They're discussing why humans were kept out of the Council in the first place." Olivia read the section carefully. "It says we were deemed too unpredictable and emotionally driven to be trusted with advanced technology, that our tendency to value individual lives over statistical efficiency makes humans incompatible with rational galactic governance. They rejected us because we care too much, Alan said with a short, humorless laugh. I can't say I'm surprised. Sir Kyle said, given this information, what do you think will happen when we return to Terra? Alan and Olivia exchanged looks. Best case, Alan said. They issue a formal protest and impose some kind of sanctions. Worst case, they decide. To make an example of us, Olivia finished. The journey continued, and as the rotation cycles passed, resources grew increasingly scarce. Food supplies were carefully rationed, and non-essential systems were shut down to conserve power for the Kriari phase cradles. On the transport ship Determination, Captain Thorne Keldon faced a difficult decision when power fluctuations threatened the Kriari section. The ship's engineer gave him two options: redirect power from crew quarters, dropping the temperature to near freezing, or risk unstable conditions for 50 Kriari passengers. Redirect the power, Hayes ordered without hesitation. Issue all cold weather gear to the crew and establish a rotation schedule for warming breaks in the engine room. Sir, his first officer protested. The crew can't function effectively in those conditions for more than a few quanta. Then we'll work in shorter shifts, Hayes said firmly. I'm not losing a single Kriari on my watch. When a junior officer later asked him why he made that choice, Hayes simply replied, because we're human. This is what we do. As the Armada approached the halfway point of their journey, long-range sensors detected something concerning. A Council blockade was forming near the edge of the Sol system, Terra's home. Dozens of advanced war vessels were taking up positions, clearly waiting for the returning human armada. The news spread quickly, and tension filled every ship. The humans had known there might be consequences for their actions, but the reality of facing the Council's military might was sobering. On the Horizon's bridge, Olivia received the reports with a calm face, though inside, her stomach twisted with worry. Send a message to Admiral Bell, she told Kyle. Tell her we're coming home with guests, and we might have company following us. Fleet Marshal Virel Dane stood in Terra's Orbital Defense Command Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the approaching Galactic Council Armada. Her silver hair was pulled back in a severe bun, and deep lines creased her face as she studied the tactical situation. How many vessels, she asked her second-in-command. 23 Council vessels, Admiral. All heavily armed. Bell nodded. She had expected this. When she made the decision to send Terra's vessels to rescue the Kriaris, she knew there would be consequences. Now they had arrived, and our own armada. The rescue armada will arrive in approximately 3 quanta. All remaining Terra defense vessels are in position, but the officer hesitated. But we're outmatched. Bell finished for him. I know, send a message to the Council Armada. Request a dialogue. The message was sent, but the Council vessels maintained their silence. They had taken up a blockade formation, clearly intending to intercept the returning human armada with its Kriari passengers. In her office below the command center, Bell met with diplomatic advisor Ren Corin. The thin, nervous man paced as he spoke. We should consider surrendering the Kriaris, he said. The Council might be lenient if we acknowledge our error and turn them over. Bell fixed him with a cold sun-cori. These people risked their lives to save others who needed help. We're not going to abandon them now. Miller stopped pacing. Admiral, you don't understand what we're facing. The Council could destroy us if they choose. They have technology we can barely comprehend. I understand perfectly well, Bell said firmly. But some things are worth standing for, even against impossible odds. As the human armada approached Terra, Tension grew on every ship. The Criaris, now aware of the danger, were deeply troubled. Elder Vyzen called a meeting with Captain Nash and Commander Foster aboard the Liberty. "You have risked too much for us already," Vyzen said. His crystal form dimmed with concern. "We cannot ask you to risk your homeworld as well." "You didn't ask," Olivia said. "We offered." Alan nodded in agreement. "This isn't just about your people anymore, Elder. It's about what kind of civilization we want to be. One that stands by while others suffer, or one that helps those in need, whatever the cost." Vyzen was silent for a moment. "My people have much to learn from yours," he finally said, "if we survive this encounter." On the bridge of the Council flagship, Overlord Zeltrax watched the approaching human armada with multiple eyes that blinked in a rhythmic pattern. The tall, multi-limbed alien had ruled the Council for 3 centuries, guiding galactic policy with cold logic and ruthless efficiency. "The humans show no signs of changing course," reported a subordinate. "As expected," Kethara said. "Their behavior is predictably irrational. Open a direct channel to their armada." Throughout the human ship, screens lit up with the image of Overlord Zeltrax. The alien's voice was translated into a flat mechanical tone. "Humans of Terra. You have violated the natural order. The strong survive, the weak perish. This is the way of the universe. Surrender the Criaris to us immediately, or face extinction alongside them." On the horizon, Captain Elara Quinn took a deep breath before responding. She knew her words would speak for all humanity in this crucial moment. "This is Captain Elara Quinn of Terra. We reject your natural order. Where we come from, strength is measured by how many you can save, not how many you can sacrifice." A murmur of approval went through the bridge crew. Kyle gave her a subtle thumbs up from his station. "You are outnumbered and outgunned," Kethara stated. "Your defiance is illogical." "Maybe so," Olivia replied. "But it's who we are." The Council Armada began to move into attack formation. On Terra's orbital platforms, defense systems came online, ready for a battle they could not win. Admiral Bell gave the order for all civilians to move to underground shelters. Then something unexpected happened. Throughout the human armada, the Criaris began to connect their phase cradles to ship systems. High Luminary Kalis had organized it quietly, working with Officer Lyra Nerin to coordinate the effort across all vessels. "What are they doing?" Alan asked, watching as Cryari units throughout the Liberty lit up with increasing brightness. Amy's voice came through on the comm. "Sir, the Criaris are linking their crystalline networks. They're creating a massive distributed computing system using their own bodies. The Criaris, with their natural ability to store and process information, were turning themselves into the most powerful computer network ever created. They accessed the Council's communication protocols, decoded them in seconds, and began broadcasting. Every ship in the galaxy, every quantum comlink on every Council world suddenly displayed the truth. Recordings of Council meetings where species were deemed evolutionarily redundant, the cold calculations that decided which civilizations lived and which were left to die. The deliberate policy of keeping emotional species like humans from joining the galactic community, and alongside these damning records, they broadcast the story of their rescue. How humans, a species the Council had rejected 3 times, had risked everything to save strangers. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Across the galaxy, other species who had faced similar treatment from the Council responded. Ships from dozens of non-Council worlds began appearing near Terra, standing with the humans and Cryaris. Many were from civilizations that had lost, sister colonies or related species to the Council's policy of natural selection. On the Council flagship, Supreme Kithara watched in disbelief as the Armada's communications officer reported incoming transmissions from Council member worlds. Multiple Council representatives are questioning our actions. The officer said, a note of shock in his voice. Some are threatening to withdraw from the Council if we attack Terra. Kithara's multiple eyes blinked rapidly. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Supreme faced something unexpected, a moral rebellion within the perfectly logical system it had created. The Council Armada stood down. In the stellar spans that followed, a new alliance formed, not based on technological advancement or evolutionary superiority, but on mutual aid and respect for all sentient life. Terra, once considered too primitive for galactic politics, became the headquarters of this new alliance. The Cryaris settled on Terra and its colonies, their crystalline bodies eventually adapting to their new home. Their perfect memories and information processing abilities made them natural historians and teachers. Elder Vizan, standing beside Admiral Bell at the signing of the Alliance Charter, offered a simple truth that became its first principle. The new measure of civilization is not in its power to destroy, but in its will to save. The Cryaris had been abandoned by the galaxy, only to be saved by the last ones they expected. In return, they helped humanity change the course of galactic history, creating a new order based not on cold calculation, but on compassion. And across the Sun Core's species that had lived in fear of being deemed redundant looked to Terra with hope, and to humans with newfound respect. The ones the Council had rejected had become the ones who would lead the galaxy into a better future.